LSU, just checking in. They probably played more than 6 games. Do they have 6 wins or where?
Stop.
I'm curious the state of LSU right now.
Fitz, I went home to Baton Rouge this weekend. Went to the game, took my son Michael and some other friends from Cali. Sat with Mr. Todd Graves and the Raising Cane's folks. It was great. It was awesome. It was a great weekend. Todd's always a great host, and we had a blast. But unfortunately, the game did not go very well, Fitz. It was also one of those really cool before the game. Our strength coach, it's been there the entire time through Nick Saban, Les Miles, everybody won all these championships. Tommy Moffitt is the head strength coach for the Texas A&M Aggies. And, he was let go by Brian Kelly when he got the job. So it meant the world to all of us to see him because he raised all of us. We know that life with strength coaches, that relationship. And so we all dogpiled on him before the game and pregame. It was really cool. But that was kind of the last good moment. Other than I did get to see our boy Kyle Williams. Got to have a little hug with Kyle on the sideline. The coach.
He's the best. Yeah, Coach Kyle.
You would have had an epic time watching him do the tiger walk down the street into the locker room in his suit and his tie with his little briefcase.
No neck.
He looked super happy to be there. I'm sure you know Kyle's faces more than anybody. But him walking down through a bunch of like loud music and people screaming and hollering. Oh man, he was Papa Kyle. I was like, this is just, I could kill this guy right now. It's so great. I wanted to tackle him on the street just to make him laugh, but he was in serious mode. But that was the last good night, that last good part of the night. It got ugly from there.
I could preface this by saying I don't know Brian Kelly at all, but watching from afar, not just this year, but in general, it just seems like he doesn't treat people the right way. The way he talks to people, players, coaches, I have never been a fan. And maybe it's just the optics. And no, he's great when you get behind closed doors. But I've never liked the way that he talks to people on the sideline.
Yeah, I think it's tough when you look at college landscape right now. We're getting a lot of these coaches that are being fired in the middle of the season right this second, and lots of big payouts, which are just absurd. It's
$54 million.
Yeah, somewhere in the 50s. They're claiming they talked it down or worked it down to a lesser number, but either way, supposedly there was one large donor that really wanted to get it done, and he was willing to take on a large portion of it. Wow, unbelievable move. But I think what's interesting in that college landscape to me, Fitz, that I was sitting there talking to my wife, Melissa, about is like, I don't know how many teams really dig into the actual hiring process like an NFL team does. And what I mean by that is like you hear these boards they have, and, it's a board put together of a lot of donors or influential people, and they're going to evaluate a coach and those type of things. But I just think it's crazy in this day and age that we live in. I don't hear more of like a Stanford bringing in an Andrew Luck, or like some of these universities that have kind of gone with a player GM of some case. To where it's like somebody who's representative, like what do winning locker rooms look like? What do winning places look like? What are the actual things that players feed off of coaches from? Like if you look at across college football, some of the coaches we see being featured all the time for the energy they bring and who they are in the locker room. It sticks out like a sore thumb who like the guys are who are like, man, I'd love to play for that guy. And to your point, I don't know Brian Kelly at all either. But what I do know is I've reached out multiple times to like, hey, man, if there's anything I can do to mentor, to help, to just be there for you, if there's a conversation that we can have, behind the scenes, I don't need anybody to know about it, but love to help you. And gotten lots of like, oh, that's great, I'll keep that in mind type stuff. So there doesn't seem like an interest level there. And then I don't know anyone that shares the side of, hey, y'all, dude, yeah, man, this guy's really, his impact, his energy, all those things. I just haven't heard a single story. In fact, I've only heard really stories to the other side of it. You've even seen some current players who just played for him coming out and saying like one of the worst experiences they've ever had as far as like a human being and the leader he was. And I don't mean to bag on him as he got fired in this instance, but what I do mean to say is it's like when we're making these decisions and we're throwing around lots of money, I just feel like, man, you'd lean on people who maybe they've won championships in school. Maybe they've won in the NFL. Maybe they've had long NFL careers. Like, I just think there's so many guys. When I look at the list, every year LSU brags about how many people are in the NFL. Like, how about putting a group together of all those guys and saying, hey, why don't you guys come have some impact and influence on Maybe who is the next head coach that's going to be leading the university? Since if anybody's going to have more pride in this place being successful, who other than you guys, right? And so I just think it's interesting that you don't see that. Like, I know Frank Wilson now, who's taking over as the interim right now. First thing he did, he sent out a text to all the guys that were part of the program, said, hey, every single one of you, you're welcome at practice. You can come anytime. Anytime. I want you any day you want to show up and be on the sideline and be at practice and any of that. I know a lot of you guys aren't all local. You're all welcome. And I thought to myself, first thing I thought was, that's cool, but why was it not already like that? Like, I'm very confused. Like, it should always be a culture and an atmosphere where everybody's welcome. I don't know how it's been at Harvard, but it's just crazy to me that there's not like an involvement of guys who've played there.
Yeah. Well, so interesting you bring that up. My coach, Tim Murphy, legendary coach, was there for 30 years. And he just retired 2 seasons ago. And so in the process of hiring the new coach, Erin McDermott, who's the AD, she reached out to some people, me being one of them, Andrew Berry being one of them, GM of the Browns. And she said, can you guys help me with this? And I tried to bring in as many candidates as I could. And then she said, look, we've narrowed it down to 4. And she had 3 guys, me being one of them, interview these 4 candidates and just give feedback. And, she was going to hire who she was going to hire, but she wanted feedback from some people that had been in organizations and around the sport and loved Harvard football. And the guy that was hired, he ended up being a guy from Princeton, which there was a lot of negative feedback from that. She stuck her neck out because she thought this was the best coach. And Andy Orrick, what he's done is he's done a great job. They won the Ivy League last year. They're undefeated this year. And the thing about the Harvard job that's just different. I mean, Ivy League football is just different than SEC, is that it's never seen as a stepping stone job. It's a destination. If you want to be the coach of one of these Ivy League institutions, like, this is it. This is the goal. This is where you want to be. Harvard had Joe Restick for a long time and Tim Murphy for 30 years. The hope is that Andy Orrick is going to be here for the next 25 years. That's what it is. And so when we went through the process, that's part of it too, is kind of weeding out. I actually talked to Chip Kelly a little bit about the job, and it was like, Chip, it would have been incredible. He would have been a great mind and innovative and fun, and he's got his place in New Hampshire, but in the end, like, it probably would have been a stepping stone to something else. So
it is crazy. Like, Fitz, I think about this. So let's go all the way back to when he was hired, and when he was hired was an opportunity there. I was there in LA, playing in LA at the time, and I'll never forget. I mean, Scott Woodward now has been a part of Texas A&M hiring Jimbo Fisher. Largest payout ever, like $75 million. Then goes to LSU as the AD and hires Brian Kelly, and now it's 50-something million. So you got 120 million in your last 2 hires in buyouts, right? And I know Scott; he was at LSU when I was there. A great guy. But listen, here's the thing. I think sometimes these things come off in a way of just criticism, but the same thing I would tell Scott if we're playing on a team together. Hey, man, we might want to think of bringing in some people that help you make these decisions that aren't a bunch of people with just checkbooks, but actually could sit in a room and give you a presentation of why people are elite leaders, why they're actually special at what they do and can lead people. Because I think of now, look how many NFL head coaches are from just my Rams locker room. I reached out at that time to Scott Woodward and said, hey, man, if there's any information, any knowledge, I've played the league for a really long time. I've been around a lot of special coaches. I've been around a lot that I think are great at being a coordinator, not necessarily a leader. I've seen a lot of guys that I think are great at leading a room of guys, like in an O-line room or a QB room. Don't know that they'd be great in front of people. Like, I've been around to watch, hey, this style used to work. Now it kind of leans toward this is the style of coaching that players cling to. Like, you've been through a lot of those experiences. And my point is not just about me. It's about all the former guys that have played there. If you've played in the NFL, you've been around. And I think of you every time we travel every week, all the coaches you've been around so many different guys and so many different ways to do it, that whether or not you help the process of who you actually hire, just the general knowledge of what you see that works and what you see that doesn't could be super useful to someone who's making that big of a decision, because LSU isn't a destination job like you're there forever, but it is, hey, we're competing for national championships and the standard is at the utmost highest. So what is the most extensive process you could go through to try and make that decision the right one? To me, I think it's like I'd want to see those universities say, hey, we're going to stop just writing checks for who the media says is hot and who the trend to go get is. Let's have an actual process and go find a guy that can absolutely change a place, right? And I think to me, that's what I would want to see a university do in this era, because it's just a totally different one now with NIL, with everything else. You can't just sit on your throne and say, I'm the dictator and I tell everybody what to do and I'm going to lead a university anymore. You've got to have more than that. And you see every personality of the teams that are really good right now, they do have more than just that.
Yeah, I love that. Certainly well put and well said. And it is funny that that's the easiest thing to do is there's a coach at a lesser college than ours that performed well. So
write him a check.
Of a sudden, let's write him a check and get him here. Be interested to see what ends up happening there. And who knows if they'll ask you for advice or not. It's okay.
I got a list of guys they can ask.
It's okay to ask. You don't have to listen, but it's okay to ask.